What happens when some of Hollywood's most recognizable faces begin to appear strikingly different over time? Icons like Madonna, Lisa Rinna, and Janice Dickinson were once seen as defining symbols of beauty for an entire generation, dominating television screens and magazine covers with unforgettable presence. Yet as the years passed, noticeable transformations began to spark curiosity, discussion, and endless waves of speculation. Many longtime fans still hold on to the original images that once defined an era of glamour and stardom. So what is really unfolding behind the curtain of fame? Today, we take a closer look at the stories surrounding celebrity transformations that caught the world off guard. In some cases, the changes were so unexpected that even seasoned Hollywood observers were left in disbelief. During the 1980s, Daryl Hannah emerged as one of Hollywood's most distinctive screen presences, often remembered for a rare blend of natural charm and otherworldly elegance. Many audiences first discovered her through the romantic fantasy film Splash, where she portrayed a wide-eyed mermaid and quickly became a beloved figure among moviegoers. Others still associate her with her striking role as the replicant Pris in the science fiction classic Blade Runner. In a decade filled with high-profile actresses and evolving styles of stardom, Hannah stood apart for a screen aura that felt both delicate and enigmatic, leaving a lasting impression on the visual identity of 1980s cinema. Part of what made her screen presence so striking was the natural structure of her face. Daryl Hannah was often noted for her defined cheekbones, strong jawline, and bright blue eyes that seemed to capture and reflect light effortlessly on camera. Unlike many stars of her era, her appeal did not feel overly polished or carefully manufactured. Instead, it carried a raw, organic quality at times, almost untamed, that gave her performances a sense of authenticity. This natural intensity is also why many filmmakers found her so compelling, as it translated into a powerful and memorable presence on screen. As the years passed, however, longtime audiences began to notice subtle shifts in her public image. The once sharply defined facial features associated with Daryl Hannah appeared to evolve gradually, with a softer overall appearance compared to her earlier film roles. For viewers who had grown up with her performances, the change felt more noticeable over time, reflecting how closely fans often follow the evolving image of familiar screen icons. Eventually, she made a choice that set her apart from many in Hollywood. Rather than continuing to pursue constant visibility, she gradually stepped away from the spotlight, choosing a quieter path away from the pressures of sustained fame and public attention. Much of her later life shifted toward environmental activism and a quieter existence outside the traditional Hollywood system, where she focused more on advocacy work and personal values than on constant public attention. This transition marked a noticeable change from the high-profile career that once defined her image in the entertainment industry. One lesser-known chapter from her years in the spotlight has often been mentioned in media coverage and retrospective accounts. Daryl Hannah was reported at the time to have had a brief romantic connection with John F. Kennedy Jr. While not a central part of her public identity, this detail has occasionally been referenced as part of the broader narrative linking Hollywood figures with prominent public families during that era. For fans of classic cinema, Kim Novak remains one of the most memorable figures to emerge from Hollywood's golden era. Her role in the 1958 masterpiece Vertigo transformed her into an enduring symbol of elegance, mystery, and cinematic magnetism. Under the visionary guidance of director Alfred Hitchcock, Novak appeared on screen with a rare, almost distant grace that captivated audiences while keeping an air of enigma intact. Her expressive yet restrained gaze, combined with a calm and composed screen presence, created a unique aura that lingered long after each scene ended. This quiet intensity helped shape the visual language of 1950s Hollywood beauty, leaving a legacy defined not by excess, but by subtle power and timeless allure. At the peak of her career, Kim Novak was widely admired for a soft, natural beauty that felt distinct from many of her contemporaries. Her facial features carried a quiet harmony, gently shaped brows, smooth complexion, and refined cheekbones that subtly framed her expressive eyes. Rather than relying on heavy makeup or elaborate styling, her appeal seemed to come from an understated confidence that translated effortlessly on camera, as if the lens naturally gravitated toward her presence. Many years later, Novak re-emerged into the public eye when she made a notable appearance at the Academy Awards, reminding audiences of her lasting connection to Hollywood history and the enduring fascination surrounding her legacy. The moment drew attention from many viewers. Her appearance seemed different from the classic image audiences remembered from her film career, with features that looked more refined and changed over time, sparking immediate discussion and online speculation. However, much of that public reaction often missed a deeper context behind her life journey. By that stage, Kim Novak had already faced a series of significant personal and health challenges. She had gone through treatment for breast cancer, recovered from a serious horseback riding accident, and spent many years managing bipolar disorder. These experiences added important layers to her story, showing a life shaped not only by fame, but also by resilience, endurance, and long-term recovery through difficult chapters. Long before that public appearance, Kim Novak had already made the deliberate choice to step away from the intensity of Hollywood and embrace a quieter, more private existence on her ranch in Oregon. There, she turned toward a slower rhythm of life, focusing on painting as a form of personal expression while also caring for animals and finding comfort in nature's stillness. So, when Novak appeared on stage in 2014, she represented more than a celebrated figure from a bygone cinematic era. She stood as someone who had moved through illness, injury, and the heavy expectations of fame, yet still chose to define her life on her own terms quietly, independently, and away from the spotlight that once shaped her image. Few artists have shaped modern pop culture as profoundly as Madonna. Since her breakthrough in the early 1980s, she has stood as a defining figure of reinvention, artistic risk-taking, and cultural independence. Through her music, visual style, and fearless public identity, Madonna repeatedly challenged conventional boundaries and helped reshape trends that influenced multiple generations of performers and creators. At the peak of her global fame, her image became instantly identifiable, carefully constructed yet constantly evolving, making her not only a music icon but also a symbol of how celebrity and self-expression can merge into a powerful cultural statement. Her sharply defined features, strong jawline, sculpted brows, and striking eyes contributed to a bold, self-assured presence that aligned closely with her provocative stage identity. Rather than reflecting the softer, more traditional Hollywood ideals of earlier eras, Madonna presented a visual language of independence, control, and creative defiance, helping reshape how female strength could be represented within mainstream entertainment. Through landmark works like a Virgin and Ray of Light, she further cemented her reputation as an artist in constant transformation, someone who continuously reinvented sound, style, and identity while maintaining full command over her public image and artistic direction. In more recent years, audiences and fans have observed noticeable shifts in her on-screen presence and overall appearance. The facial structure once associated with her early image appeared to evolve over time, with softer contours and a different sense of volume that contrasted with earlier decades in the spotlight. These observations quickly became a topic of public conversation, particularly among longtime followers who still associated her with her original visual identity. The discussion became even more prominent following her appearance at the 65th Annual Grammy Awards, where many viewers noted that her presentation felt different from the version of Madonna they had known for years. Social media soon became saturated with commentary, speculation, and divided opinions. In response, Madonna addressed the attention in her own distinctive voice, pushing back against the pressure to conform and highlighting the intense scrutiny often placed on women in the public eye. She framed the conversation as part of a broader cultural pattern, where visibility and aging in the spotlight are constantly examined through a critical lens. Over time, some observers noted subtle shifts in her public presentation that appeared to soften earlier changes, though interpretations varied widely. Ultimately, Madonna's journey continues to mirror the defining pattern of her career: continuous transformation, persistent public attention, and an unwavering commitment to shaping her own narrative on her own terms. Few television figures have cultivated a personal image as instantly recognizable as Lisa Rinna. She first rose to prominence through her role as Billie Reed on the long-running soap opera Days of Our Lives, later expanding her presence in the television landscape with appearances on Melrose Place. Years later, she reintroduced herself to a new generation of audiences by becoming a standout personality on the reality series The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where her outspoken presence and distinctive on-screen persona helped reinforce her status as a memorable figure in modern television culture. Yet long before her reality television era, Lisa Rinna was already widely recognized for one distinctive trait that became closely associated with her public image. In her early career, she carried a naturally energetic look, bright, expressive eyes, well-defined facial structure, and a radiant smile that translated strongly on screen. This combination gave her a lively presence that fit seamlessly into the polished, fast-moving world of 1990s television dramas. As time progressed, public attention increasingly focused on shifts in her appearance, with viewers noting noticeable changes that became part of broader conversations about celebrity image, evolving aesthetics, and the pressures of long-term visibility in the entertainment industry. Over time, observers noted that her facial features appeared increasingly altered compared to her earlier on-screen image, with a more pronounced emphasis on volume and contour that changed how audiences perceived her familiar look. These visible differences soon became part of a wider public discussion about evolving beauty standards in entertainment and the long-term pressures of maintaining a media-facing identity. What makes Lisa Rinna stand out in this conversation is her openness. Unlike many public figures who remain reserved about personal aesthetic decisions, she has often addressed the topic directly in interviews, reflecting on her choices with unusual candor and acknowledging that her approach to appearance has been part of an ongoing process of experimentation and self-expression in the public eye. She once shared that at the age of 24, she chose to enhance her lips after being inspired by Barbara Hershey's appearance in the film Beaches. The procedure involved silicone-based injections, which over time led to complications as the material gradually hardened within the tissue. Years later, Lisa Rinna underwent corrective surgery to remove part of the silicone, turning her personal experience into one of the more widely discussed examples in conversations about cosmetic procedures in the entertainment industry. Her openness about the process has since contributed to broader discussions around long-term outcomes and risks associated with early aesthetic interventions. For much of the 1980s and 1990s, Heather Locklear stood out as one of television's most compelling and recognizable stars. She first caught public attention through the primetime drama Dynasty, where her presence helped her gain early visibility in the entertainment world. However, it was her defining role as Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place that fully cemented her status as a pop culture icon. With a confident screen presence, signature blonde style, and effortless charisma, Locklear became one of the most memorable faces of network television's golden era, representing the polished glamour and high-drama storytelling that defined the period. At the peak of her popularity, Heather Locklear was often noted for a naturally striking screen presence. Her defined cheekbones, refined jawline, and expressive eyes created a look that translated effortlessly on camera, giving her performances a sense of immediacy and visual appeal. Her overall image balanced glamour with accessibility, allowing her to feel both polished and relatable to audiences. This distinctive combination helped her characters leave a lasting impression and contributed to her status as one of the most recognizable television figures of her era. Over time, however, audiences began to perceive more subtle shifts in her public image. The once sharply defined features associated with her earlier roles appeared softer, while the familiar structure that framed her 1990s on-screen persona seemed less pronounced. To some longtime viewers, her appearance felt more rounded and different from the version of Heather Locklear they remembered from her peak television years, creating surprise among those who had followed her career for decades. Yet her story extends far beyond visual impressions. Behind the public image and media attention, she also navigated a series of deeply personal challenges that influenced both her life path and professional journey, adding further complexity to her long-standing presence in Hollywood history. Over the years, Heather Locklear faced significant personal struggles and periods away from the public eye as she focused on recovery and rebuilding stability in her life. What has often stood out in her journey is her willingness to acknowledge these challenges more openly, offering a rare sense of transparency in an industry that often hides vulnerability behind fame. In later reflections and interviews, she spoke about healing, self-awareness, and the long process of rebuilding after difficult experiences. By the mid-2020s, she was seen more frequently in a calmer, more grounded phase of life, with greater emphasis on family and personal well-being. Her story serves as a broader reminder that behind every well-known public figure is an individual navigating complex realities far removed from the spotlight. During the 1990s, Laura Flynn Boyle became one of the most recognizable television actresses of her time. Her breakthrough role as Donna Hayward in Twin Peaks, created by director David Lynch, introduced audiences to a performer with a quiet but distinctive screen presence. The series' surreal atmosphere and devoted cult following helped elevate her visibility and firmly place her in the public eye. She later broadened her career with a significant role in the legal drama The Practice and appeared in the blockbuster film Men in Black 2, further reinforcing her standing in Hollywood and showcasing her range across both television and film. At the height of her fame, Laura Flynn Boyle was often described as having a distinctive and unconventional screen presence. Her porcelain complexion, dark hair, and sharply defined facial structure created a bold, elegant look that set her apart instantly on screen. Combined with expressive eyes and a subtly enigmatic aura, her appearance contributed to the sense of mystery that audiences associated with her most memorable roles. As time went on, public attention around her image naturally evolved, as it often does with long-standing figures in the entertainment industry. Fans who had followed her career across different eras began to compare different phases of her on-screen presence, reflecting the broader way audiences track change in familiar public figures over decades. Over time, audiences noted that the once sharply defined facial contours associated with Laura Flynn Boyle appeared to shift, with features perceived as softer and less angular than in her earlier on-screen work. Her overall look seemed different to viewers who remembered her from the early era of Twin Peaks, where her distinctive presence first drew attention. For longtime fans, these changes became a point of ongoing discussion and interpretation, reflecting the broader tendency of audiences to closely observe the evolving public images of well-known figures over extended careers in Hollywood. Then, almost as unexpectedly as she rose to prominence, Laura Flynn Boyle gradually moved away from the public spotlight. Her appearances became less frequent, and she rarely commented directly on the shifts in public perception that had followed her over the years. One lesser-known detail from her early career involves her time working on Twin Peaks. During production, she was in a relationship with her co-star, Kyle MacLachlan. Their connection has often been discussed in behind-the-scenes accounts of the series, adding an additional layer of real-life context to the already intricate and atmospheric world created by director David Lynch. Long before the era of social media influencers, Janice Dickinson famously positioned herself as one of fashion's earliest supermodel personalities. During the 1970s and 1980s, she was a highly visible presence in the modeling world, appearing on numerous major magazine covers, walking prominent runways, and working with leading figures in the fashion industry. Decades later, she was introduced to a new generation of viewers through her role as a judge on America's Next Top Model, where her outspoken style and direct personality helped reinforce her reputation as one of fashion's most recognizable and talked-about figures. On the show, she was known for being direct, outspoken, and impossible to overlook, qualities that made her a memorable television personality. At the height of her modeling career, Janice Dickinson was widely recognized for a striking runway presence shaped by strong facial structure-defined cheekbones, a sculpted jawline, and naturally full lips that translated powerfully in photographs. Her angular features and expressive look fit seamlessly into the bold visual style of 1970s fashion, helping define an era of high-impact editorial imagery. As time went on, public attention gradually shifted toward changes in her appearance, becoming part of broader conversations around aging, beauty standards, and the intense scrutiny placed on long-term figures in the fashion and entertainment industries. Over time, observers noted that her overall appearance seemed to shift, with facial features appearing more altered and less consistent with her earlier modeling-era image. The once sharply defined look associated with Janice Dickinson was often described by viewers as evolving into a softer and more stylized presentation, which became a frequent topic of public discussion about beauty standards and image maintenance in the entertainment world. What also drew attention was her public stance on the subject. Across different interviews and appearances, Dickinson has sometimes offered conflicting or evolving explanations regarding cosmetic procedures, including statements in which she attributed her look to natural features. These contrasts between public perception and personal claims contributed to ongoing debate and made her one of the more frequently discussed figures in conversations about celebrity image and transformation. Critics and fans alike openly questioned those claims, fueling ongoing debate about her changing public image. One of the most widely discussed moments occurred when Janice Dickinson appeared on the television series Botched to address complications related to earlier cosmetic procedures. The episode quickly gained attention, generating headlines and widespread online discussion, along with emotionally charged interviews that added further intensity to the conversation. In many ways, it reflected the kind of high-profile media attention that has often followed Dickinson throughout her career, moments that blend personal disclosure with public spectacle and keep her firmly within the ongoing cultural conversation.